Welcome back. So let's have a look into this one together right now. In case if you could solve this, then this is pretty amazing. And you can see those things we have learned so far, they also apply on real world applications. I mean, yes, this is a challenge and some of them has been configured in a really strange way. But these are things you should definitely look for also in real world applications. So they still exist there. So let's have a look. Okay, we are within apps, Anduril Lab server. I've got the setup still ready and we can still not log in. Okay, the first thing I like to do is using JDX GUI to open this application. Okay, so here we have it. And now within there, the first thing I like to do is having a look into the Android manifest. So here we can see what's going on. I mean, all those permissions, we have already seen them at the installation part, but yeah, write external storage, absolutely interesting. And the rest might not be that interesting. I mean, SMS, this is also something we should take a look into this. Yeah, read external storage and things like this. One thing I would like to mention over here is we are using just the Android system permissions. So there are no custom permissions which could open some things right now. So at least that's good for this application. Okay, then we've got this application part and we can see it's debuggable. Okay, we will learn or do this later on in this course. And we can also see allow backup has been set to true. So with the ADB, we can, so the Android debug bridge, we can create a backup and then we can have a look into those files if there might be some sensitive information in there. If this is enabled in an application, you should definitely do this to see what's inside there. Then we've got our starting point within those intent filters, category launcher and action main, which means this is the first activity that gets opened. And this is something I definitely want to take a look into. Starting an application can be done in several ways. So if you click on this icon, this activity will be launched. And there might be some interesting stuff. For example, most of the application checks if there is already some database creation. So if the database has been set up correctly. And for example, most of the applications do some setup first, the database, shared preferences, files, other stuff. And they have some checks. Has this been already done? If not, then do this. And then we have a direct reference to something maybe interesting in there. The other thing how an application could be started is, for example, via a broadcast receiver. This boot complete broadcast receiver. So after the system has been booted up, we can react to those events and then the application could be also start. Then we need to have a look into the onReceive method on this broadcast receiver. So this is something I definitely want to do, figuring out all these entry points of an application and have a look into there what's happening there. We can go down the rabbit hole. I mean, we've got a bunch of stuff on the left, but at least we should have a look into the starting point of this app. All right, then we've got activities and we've got a lot of activities. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, not sure about this one. I'm not good at counting. So here we can see we've got activities and yeah, I just look at those names to get a feeling what's happening there. File pref activity, so something with files. Do login, okay. Post login, interesting, there are 2 separate activities for this login process and even the launcher is a logging activity, okay. Interesting. Wrong login, also interesting. Do transfer and this one, view statement. What do we need to look for in those activities? Of course, if they are exported, because if they are exported, we can interact with them and we can see exported set to true. Over here, oh, there's a lot of stuff set to true. We've got post login, interesting. Do transfer, even better. So maybe we can simply open the transfer option and get some money from account A to account B and things like this. On real world applications, pretty unlikely, but in this challenge, maybe. Then we've got provider and content provider, so some form of database access. Track user content provider. This sounds exactly like the challenge I have provided to you. So there might be some tracks about the things that the user does, and maybe we can delete those tracks, then the user or the user which is looking at this log file doesn't realize that something happened in there. And we can see exported set to true. Amazing. Then we've got a broadcast receiver. We've got more broadcast receiver, but this one here. super generic name. Nothing, no clue what's going on over here. We can see that's the name, my broadcast receiver, okay, and the action is the broadcast. We have to take a look into this one. It's being exported and that's a possible attack surface from outside. So having a malicious application could trigger this one over here, but we do not know what's happening inside here. All right, then we've got additional activities. Change password, exported to true. Interesting. Then this one over here, these are things which I skip in a first view because here we can see the package name is COM Android Insecure Bank. That's the package name over here. So that's the developer code. And here we can see we are within COM Google Android. So these are core features of Google, and therefore they are just included into this application. AD activity, so maybe some advertisement or things like this. Yes, there could be flaws in there, but I would focus on the developer code itself. It's most unlikely that we find something critical in here right now. Maybe there's some critical flaw within the usage of them. So this could be still messed up. But if you have that much to do right now, I would recommend focusing on the developer code. COM Android Insecure V2. All right, the rest is Google stuff. Okay, we skip this. So now let's see. We could start with the activities, and I would recommend having a look at the login activity at least. Okay. Oh, what catches directly my eyes is my shared preferences. Username, password fields, okay, we have seen this, and some basic 64-byte string. All right. So my shared preferences means we are having data being stored in a protected directory of this application. We need root privileges to reach this, and therefore I wouldn't count this as a security issue if there are some credentials inside there. Nevertheless, it's pretty interesting. Maybe there are some autofill credentials or things like this because we have seen this button. And this one, autofill credentials. So maybe there are some generic or global credentials inside there. This is something this would be in finding. But having credentials, user credentials stored in a protected directory, I wouldn't count this one. Nevertheless, it's interesting having a look into this one. Okay, and then we've got bunch of Android app development, which we do not understand right now. But that's not a problem because we can look at those strings and maybe figure out what's going on. We've got this onCreate method. Okay, we know onCreate, that's being called when an activity is being created. So this is the layout of this application in this method, which means this part over here, maybe let's take a color. And this part over here defines the view of our activity over here in this one. Because this is our logging activity, that's the entry point when we start this application, and here we have this onCreate stuff. Okay. So let's see what do we have inside here. Get resource string is admin equals no, find view button, set visibility. Yes, sounds a little bit cryptic, but the things we get is admin no, set visibility to this one. So maybe there's a secret button inside there, and if we are having admin privileges, we see this button, and if we are not having admin privileges, we do not see this button. This would be my generic interpretation of this code right now. To be honest, I haven't looked into this one. I have looked into other parts, but this one I haven't yet taken a deep look into. But to be honest, this might sound absolutely interesting, because if this is an intent that gets be triggered, for example, if we click on this button and there's an intent happening, maybe we can fire this intent from our own without having this button inside there. So we could write, as we have seen this in the past in the activities, we could start an intent and provide additional parameters to this intent, and maybe we could create a user which has privileges or things like this without even having access or credentials for this application. Maybe. I'm not sure about this one. Maybe I will have a look into this one later on. Okay. Then we've got some other stuff. Logging activity, perform login. Okay. On click, I mean, if we click on a button, then we perform a login. This is something we should investigate later. Here we're having create user. Okay. This sounds also pretty interesting. but this might be the button which is yes. So I guess that's the button that's not visible right now. Then we've got on click, fill data, all right. We've got a lot of exceptions over here, and having many exceptions, I mean, that's a good indicator to have some complex stuff where things could go wrong. This is often the case for cryptographic functionalities. For example, invalid algorithmus parameter exception, invalid key exception, no such algorithmus exception, bad padding. This points to cryptography. So maybe there's some kind of encryption and decryption happening with those credentials we are inserting here. This is just a well-educated guess. Reverse engineering some code is like, okay, we reverse engineer this, we make some guesses, and then we have to verify if our guesses are correct. So we do not know if this is the case, but we have to start somewhere. And yeah, this is my well-educated guess for this one right now. Okay, create user functionality is still work in progress. Oh, okay. Even if we can make and if we can trigger this function, there's no code behind this one. So it's not worth taking a look into maybe. Then we've got fill data. And here we can see all those exceptions once again, and we can see username and password, okay? Encrypted username, super secure password. So these are not, this is not a username and a password. We are within the shared preferences context. So here we can see we are having shared preferences, which is being referenced as settings. And now we have the method getString. GetStrings means the application is looking into the internal file, which is stored in the shared preferences, and gets those strings into this application back again. And we are now having some key value pair. So this one is the key and this one is the value, which means in this file we are having a structure which is encrypted username and super secure password, and then there are some values inside there. If we are not having values inside there, then we are defining these default values null. This is how this part works, which means we are going into a protected area of this application and we check if there are some values inside there and we store them in username and password. Okay. So let's see. If this username is not equals null and the password is not equals null, then we've got username base64 byte string. All right. So this is something we can understand. So we have this username fetched from our shared preferences and we are simply just doing base64 decode. The username is therefore definitely not encrypted as far as this goes directly into this function. So this part is not encryption, this is just base64. Okay, then let's see. So this one is now containing our username in clear text, this username base64 byte string, because it's being decoded over here. Okay, so let's see, where's this being used? It's being used over here. So we can see this is now once again a little bit Android specific, and this is why I recommend doing a little bit of Android app development. Then it's easier to follow along with this, because otherwise this might not be understandable right now. But let me try to explain this. So here we are fetching the references to those two fields. And this one here is an edit text, and this one over here, this one is also an edit text field. And here we are fetching the references of this one and this one. And then we are writing content into those fields. And we are writing the content which has been previously received from our shared preferences. So we write in here our username and here the password. And the password is AES decrypt string. So the password is encrypted in the shared preferences, but here we write the plain text. So this would be absolutely readable for us if we hit autofill credentials and if there has been some setup before. So if we log in into this application, the shared preferences file might be created, which contains the last username maybe. And if we hit autofill, those credentials will be retrieved from this file. The username is only in base64 string, and the password seems to be encrypted. So these are the guesses right now we can conclude out of this one. We do not know this, that's just a guess. Okay, then we can see if the username is null or the password is null, no stored credentials found, and if both are null, then no stored credentials are also being found. Okay, this is something we could test. If we simply click autofill credentials, because we are in the method fill credentials, fill data, then we should get no stored credentials found, because username is null and password is null, which is the else case. Let's see. No stored credentials found. Okay, if we are inserting a username, for example admin, and if we hit autofill credentials, no stored credentials found. I mean, it's amazing because both are identical, but this one should be now this case. Because we have provided a username, the username is not null, but the password has been set to null, so we should be in this case. All right, it doesn't bring us further, therefore let's move on. Perform login. Here we can now see we are okay. Here we can now see we are fetching the text from this one. This is this part. And here we are fetching the password. And then we are passing these two information via here. We are passing them to those two information. So to be more clear, the user will be here afterwards, and the password will be here. And we are passing this to the doLogin class. So within the doLogin class, those things are being compared. And there's no check right now. So this means our credentials are being checked in the doLogin class. It might be not the case if perform logging is not being triggered here. So let's see. Perform login. Okay, we can see perform logging is being called over here. And this one is the logging button, which means we are definitely calling perform login, and afterwards they need some check if we have entered the correct credentials or not. This means the check happens in the doLogin class, pretty likely right now. All right, and I guess that's all. So there's a ton of stuff already happening in here. I didn't mention to go that deep right now into this one, but yeah. Nevertheless, we have done it right now, and yeah, let's recap this real quick. We're doing some stuff with the shared preferences. This might contain our username and encrypted password if we are successfully logging into this application even once. Because now, if we start this autofill credentials, we are getting no credentials found. Because we can see those needs to be fetched from those shared preferences, and there are obviously no credentials inserted right now. Okay. Then we've got this really strange admin button, which appears if we are having admin privileges, which is super interesting because we are still in the login function over here. So therefore we are not having an user context right now. Interesting, but something we might want to investigate. And then, yes, we've got the shared preferences, those things, and we can see the login class, doLogin class, is performing the credential stuff. So a quick look maybe before we go to the activities. Just a quick look. Let's see. Okay. Yes. Okay. There's a lot of stuff happening there, and this is something we might not want to check out. So if you want to investigate this, okay. But as far as I have seen this might be regarding to the web configuration. This would mean that those credentials might not be stored on the application. So we are having now a real world application. This application, let me try to explain this differently. Yes. So this application is making a network request within the doLogin class, and the web server is checking if the user admin is available or not. This means those user information which can be used to log in are not stored on the device, at least not them which has been defined by the user. There might be some other credentials stored inside there, so some generic credentials. service account, operator accounts, generally user accounts, things like this. But not those user credentials which are normally used to log in. And this is perfectly fine because this is like real-world applications are handling this stuff. So the server is managing those user credentials. For example, if you register to certain applications, if you provide some username, email address, password, and things like this, those information will be sent to the server, and the server is handling this. In case if you want to log in, we need to have the real credentials because we could patch this in the application, but maybe then we lose the access to the server part. So those network requests might not take effect anymore. We will cover this whole process, this stuff in the man-in-the-middling part, where we talk about man-in-the-middling and network connection, and then we will have a look into this part right now. Okay? For now, we can skip this. So if you want to bypass this, we have to figure out if there are some hard-coded credentials in this application, inside here, which can be used to log in into this app. Those hard-coded credentials might also occur on the server side, of course. This can happen. It's not that most likely, but this could be the case. But this is something we definitely should take a look into. Alright, so to bypass this part right now, I would go for the activity approach. And therefore, let's do this right now. So let's clear this up. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we're having the logging activity. We've got file pref, post logging, which has been set to export it through. You know what? Let's simply take this one and let's insert this in a new Visual Studio Code file. Okay, and now we can select activity. Then we can apply a regular expression. And then we can say exported equals true. Okay, then I hit Alt Enter and I copy them and paste them in here. So now we've got all those exported stuff. Oh, there's some characters missing here. Okay. So now these are the activities we can call. We've got post logging, do transfer, view statement, and change password. Let's try starting with post login. So can I set this on top? No. Then let's put this on the, let's put this on the right. And now let's see. Let's put this, yeah, let's do it in this way. Okay, ADB shell, we connect via ADB, and then we are using the activity manager, and we are using AM for activity manager, and we are using start activity. And then we have to provide the component name. So let's see. Okay, it's not mentioned here, then we might have it in the intent options. Yes. Category, nothing we are interested in. Component name, there we go. Okay, AM, start activity -n, and then we have to provide the package name. The package name is this one. And then we have to provide our activity name, which is this one, this post login. Okay, let's start with this one. 3, 2, 1. Nice. Okay, I didn't expect it that easy, but it's pretty nice. And there's also this device is not rooted option. I'm not sure about this one. Let's see. Oh well, for me it looks like a rooted device. Yes. So can we? Yes, this device is definitely being rooted. So this rooting detection is just bad. I do not blame the developer. Maybe it's designed to work in this way, but this routing detection is not fetching our routing option right now. All right, so now we have logged into this application, and this routing detection is also not affecting our device right here. Pretty amazing. Now let's see what we can do. Starting one activity gives us the opportunities to interact with the original activities because we are already in that sandbox context right now. So what do we have here? Okay, these are just those general options. Transfer. Let's see. From account. Okay, get accounts. Yes. Okay, this application seems to crash right now, I guess. Let's see. Yes, let's check this real quick. Lockhead. Okay. Do we have, yes, I guess there wasn't crash. Let's see. Here we have a crash. Let's see if this is our crash. So let's scroll down. Transfer. Everything is working fine. Get accounts. Okay, I wait. Now get accounts. Yes. Get accounts crashes over here. The reason for this is if we log in, maybe we are having some kind of user context. And if you're now doing get accounts, this user context is not available and we might have a variable like null in there or stuff like this. Returning null when some string or some context is required might end up in this crash. So even if we can take or start this activity, we are not having a real advantage right now. Okay, let's try it once again and have a look at the other options. View statement. No, I do not see anything. Maybe we see something in the loghead. Oh, it's just loghead. View statement. Statement does not exist. Okay, maybe I have missed this part over here. So there's nothing in here. And change password. Okay. Here we can see we cannot select the username. This looks like a flaw. The change password option only provides a password field over here, a new password. So we do not have to know the original password, which is absolutely bad. Unfortunately, right now we cannot select this username field, so we cannot provide which username or which password we want to change. But this might be something we could solve with those intents. So here we have this change password activity. We can see it on the title. Let's see what's inside there. So maybe we can start this change password. We can apply our intents, our username, and then we can change this password. So let's see if this generally would work. If this works, then we still have to find out what are valid usernames because admin is not available inside here. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Do we have change password over here? Yes, here we have it. Here's the activity. So let's double click. And we can see this might be also something with some HTTP request. Okay, server IP, server port, get string. Yes. Okay, nice. Here we have it. We've got get intent. So if the change password activity is being called, we are having an intent. And this intent has some additional parameters, which is uname, which might be the username. And this username is a string. So we need to call this change password activity and we need to provide our intent, uname, with a string. And then this activity will open and we are having a username filled in here. All right? Okay, so let's open a new terminal. All right, adb shell, am start activity -n. So our component name, our package name is this one over here. Okay, and the activity we want to start is this one. And now, whoops, without this. And now we need to provide this intent. Let me check really quick. Okay. Therefore, I have to take a look into the AM first. So let's see. How can we how can we provide this string in an intent? Over here, it's simply just extra key, extra string. Okay, we just need to use -e or -es for extra string. And then we can apply it. So let's keep this in foreground. Make this a little bit larger. Okay. Now we're calling this change password activity and we want to provide uname and we want to provide, for example, admin. I mean, it's not working right now because we do not know a username, but this will start this activity here. Maybe that's, okay, no, that's not working this way. Oh, sorry for this. Okay, let's keep it in this way. Okay, this will start the change password activity, and we are providing this username intent. How do we know that it's uname? Because within the activity itself, in the change password activity, we're having this get intent. So this is a keyword you definitely should look for if you reverse engineer activities or other stuff like services or broadcast receiver, that you check which data are being passed to this one and what happens with this data. Here we can see this is now the username, and this username set text, yeah, it's taking this username and inserting it here. And if we click on the button request change password task, it's being executed for this username. Okay, so here we can see post data. We are sending some network traffic. As already mentioned, we will analyze this in the man in the middle part. For now, we are just reverse engineering this. All right, let's see if this works. We could also go back, because this should work if we start this at the beginning. So can we simply click restart? Okay, now we are within the login. So let's open this one. Okay, we can see change password has extras. And there we go, nice. So now if we click change password, let's see, test. It won't work because there is no username admin, which we have already identified at the beginning. Entered password is not complex enough. Oh, that's also something we have to take care about. Let's see. The password things. Yeah, here's the password pattern. Okay, what do we need? Maybe digits. 620 special character. Oh, okay, we have to choose really complex passwords. Then let's do this. So test 1 2 3 4 exclamation mark. Does this work? No. What is missing? 6 to 20. Oh, there's no exclamation mark allowed. So then let's choose $. Okay, so nothing happens, but this is what we have expected. Maybe let's have a quick look at the server part. I mean, as an attacker, we do not have access to this one, but it will be interesting what's happening on this side. So let's see. Yes, we are getting error, and here we can see the password for the user admin, but we are getting an error. Yes, every time we click this, we are getting an error. So if we identify an invalid username, we could use this one over here maybe to change the password for this username, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? Yes, it is. But this is sometimes like the stuff works. I mean, this is now a network request, and we do not have to do this on the application side to call this with this parameter. Because after all this stuff, there is a network request which is being sent from this device to this device, and those information are being stored in this network request. So if we go into our man in the middle position, and if we fetch this network request, then we can modify those data, and we can simply perform this without having a mobile application. Already mentioned, we are doing this in the man in the middle part. Okay, nice. So this is how we can play around with those activities. I mean, you could also have a look into these, into this one. This is something we have already seen. I guess we have already seen all of them, yes. And some of them might work and some of them don't. Okay, so for this video right now, it's all. We will move on with the solution, of course, but I will separate them. In case if you are just interested in exploiting content providers or broadcast receiver, you can directly watch these separate parts, all right? So I'm looking forward to see you in the next video where we talk about content providers. Let's go.